Welcome to Be a Voice on USALA Radio. This is Britt James, and I'm excited about today's show. Today, I have a very special guest. I actually have two special guests today, but today I have a really special guest that I've been waiting for probably for the last couple of years, 2 years or so, to be able to connect and get this person on the show, because he is actually one of my favorites out there in the podcast world today. Today, I have Dave from Dopey Podcast on our show. Hey, Dave, how you doing?
I'm good, Britt. That's so nice. That's what I always say to people. I've been trying to get you to come on for years, and it's very nice. Thank you. I appreciate it. It's an honor to be with you in this weird cyber land that we're in, but it's awesome.
It is crazy, and it's an honor likewise for me, as I said, and without blowing sunshine, as we talked about earlier, this really is an honor because most people who know me know that I'm in recovery, and I've been working in recovery for many years. And, before there was such a stigma about recovery and about people who use drugs and were, then are addicted to drugs and continue to have to fight that their whole lives. However, to be able to connect with people that are doing some really great and positive things and shedding a light and fighting that stigma means a lot to me. And you're one of those people. You actually are what I consider one of the forerunners out there, because you are really grasping what it's like to have recovery, because you've been doing it for how long? How long have you been in recovery, Dave?
I've been in recovery for like 7.5 years.
It's awesome. Me too. So when's your what date? What date you got?
August 13th, 2015.
August 28th, 2015. Congratulations. That's
really
really
great.
great.
That means, Britt, I'm much more sober than you are.
And and that's probably how you got a lot more gray hair than I do then, I'd say.
No, it's the death. It's the deaths and the kids that gave me the gray hair.
Yeah.
But yeah. I've been meeting more and more people who have 7 years, and it's like we're like a little crew. We did it. Something happened in 2015 that changed everything.
Yeah, and that's I think that's important for people to know that something happens. Always it sparks, to change everything. And I think people don't get that. People just think that it's easy for those who are in addiction to just stop using the drug. I've heard that so many times. I hear it so many times, and I still do. What was that for you? What was it for you to say, that's it, I'm stopping. This is my bottom?
Oh, man. It's a confluence of things, right? It's so many things that go on and on and on. I know it was nothing on August 14th, 2015 that did it. I mean, the end of my addiction, or the end of my using, was a thing with my daughter's mother, who's now my partner again, and we were trying to reconnect and get back together. And I was smoking weed, which she knew about, but she didn't know that I was also taking benzos. And she kind of discovered that I was taking benzos as we were trying to reconnect. And she got really angry and fearful, because I had custody of our 4-year-old often. And she was like, okay, you need to. And when I had gotten custody in the first place, I was a full-on heroin addict using. So I didn't get unsupervised custody without a year of demonstrated sober time with a hair test. So fast forward 4 years after that, I'm taking benzos and taking Klonopins and Xanax and smoking weed. And she found out, and she's like, all right, you're going to have to get another year of sober time. And I remember it pretty well, considering how many benzos I was taking. It was like that night, August 14th or whatever, I was living on the Lower East Side of Manhattan, and I was at my computer, probably chain smoking Marlboros and smoking pot, and writing this email to Linda, begging her to let me smoke weed, that I would be okay if she just let me do that. And, I had used weed probably since 1993 every day. And then it's 2015, and I'm sitting here begging her. I'm a waiter in a deli. I'm subletting an apartment, and my life is the best it's been in years,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm begging her to let me smoke pot. And something happened. it was my closest thing to a white light experience, and I saw myself, and I saw me typing these letters, like these words, and I was like, what the fuck, excuse me, what the hell is wrong
Is that
with
right?
you? Maybe I should try something else. And then in the morning, I went to a 12-step meeting, and I didn't smoke before I went. And there was a kid in there who was like 28, and he was celebrating 10 years. And it was really annoying. You know what I mean? I was 41. He was 28. I hadn't had a day. He was celebrating 10 years. And I think I went up to him to tell him how annoying I thought he was. You know, something like that at the end of his, because he shared, you know, he's
Right.
a speaker. And he was so excited to meet me because he was a really nice person. And I was a total dick. And he was like, oh, wow. He goes, so is today going to be your first day? And I hadn't even considered it. I just knew I needed help. And when he said that, I was like, yeah, maybe it is going to be my first day. And I went home, and I called my best friend, and I gave him all my weed, and I flushed all the pills, and that was my first day.
Wow. You gave everything away. You flushed all the pills. And, you know, to do something like that, that really is a bottom, because there's no drug addict out there that does that just because they say today's the day. They really got to mean that, because, you know, that's time, money, and the way you feel. It's your whole feeling. It's you. So for you to do that, you know, and I want to go back to this young kid, and it's interesting. I go to the meetings, and, you know, and I'll sit in the rooms, and I hear these, they have 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 years in recovery, and they may be 28, 29, 30 years old. And sometimes I just want to go over, maybe this is just me, and just like, do you know how lucky you are that you are where you're at now, and not waiting till you are in your 40s to get to where you are? And I think maybe that's where that annoying comes from. So I'm glad to hear you say it, because I find it annoying too. I still do.
No, I think I'm just a jerk. I'm resentful, and I'm jealous. You know what I mean? I think there's a lot of jealousy in there, and so I become resentful. It's like a default. It's like a default of mine. But that kid, I never saw him again, or maybe I did. I have no idea. But he was the last thing, and I had never. I mean, I had decided I was going to get sober a million times, or I tried to get sober a million times before that. I don't know if I had actually ever made the decision, but I don't think I ever threw away drugs. I think I said, okay, when I'm done with the drugs, I'm going to do it.
Right.
You know, and at that point, I was incredibly desperate, and I'm assuming that's why it stuck.
That's good. And it's spoken like a true drug addict. You know, when I'm done with this, then I'll go and get help. You know, but to be able to throw it away, that's really is a bottom. And I was being serious, because you're not throwing away your time and your money and what's going to potentially, you know, be your lifeline, because that's what is your lifeline at that point. So once you threw those drugs away, where'd you end up? What did you do?
I never went back to that first meeting again. I'm not for any particular reason. It just wasn't near where I lived. And I got lucky, is I lived on the Lower East Side, and I feel like it was a Saturday or it was a Friday that I went to the first meeting, and the next morning they had a 7:30, and I wake up early, and not using, I wake up really early, and they were having a 7:30 meeting at a Y in Chinatown off Houston Street, and I went there, and I told my story, which was basically I'm a heroin addict, and I lost my family, and I can't stop thinking about how much I fucked everything up. And they were kind to me. And there was an old man at that meeting from New Zealand. He was actually like a renowned painter, I found out. But he said, we would love it if you came back tomorrow. And he said it in like a New Zealand accent. And no one had ever said that to me in a meeting. Like, I never had that experience. So when he said that, I was like, wow, that's cool. And I went back the next morning, and what I was really fortunate was that meeting met 7 days a week at 7:30 in the morning. And I went there every day, probably for a year, you know? So like that was the thing.
That's awesome. And it's the connections. It's having that connection to people that tell you, you know, we're glad you're here. We're glad you come back and stuff like that. And, when they say it and you feel that they mean it, it means a lot more to you than just somebody else saying, yeah, come back, it'll be good. You know what I mean? There's a sincerity. There's definitely sincerity in that. So the rooms worked for you up front. Those 12 steps worked. Do you still go to meetings? Do you still do meetings?
Yeah, I went today.
Yeah?
This morning. Yeah.
How many times? Oh, okay. How many days a week do you go? Roughly, if you try.
I would say I go like 3 days or something, 3 or 4 days, something like that.
And it's something that's really important for people that are, watching and listening to know that, just because, that first year was a rough year and you got through it and things got better, you don't stop working that recovery. You still got to continue to go and surround yourself by those connections and support that get you where you got to be. So
I never thought that I would be in this situation now. Like, I mean, in how good my life is, but I also never thought that I would still be relying on 12-step recovery as much as I do. And I don't rely on it to not use. I rely on it for it helps me, and it helps me not be crazy, and it helps, and like it allows me to help other people. But really, that's also just to help me not be crazy.
Right.
So I get a ton out of it, and I didn't go. Last week, we had a really hectic week. I have another daughter now, and she had to have her adenoids removed, which are like weird sinuses, and it's like a surgery, and she had to do that this week. So I missed a bunch of meetings, and I definitely was affected. And I don't like that. I don't like that. I don't like being this weird 12-step guy who needs meetings. And, like the people who go to meetings and they're like, I really needed a meeting today. Like I don't like being like that, but I am.
And there's nothing wrong with that though, because, you find that solace, you find that comfort in the rooms, and there is truth to that. And I was up front, I was so dead against it. Like I did not want to go to meetings. There was no reason for me to be, because I had nothing in common with those people. Why would I want to go sit in a room and drink coffee and, stale pastries, which some of them weren't so stale. There was best food I ever had some days. But I found that, we had more in common than the people that I was around every single day for most of my life. And that, I found more connection there. So it's cool to hear you say that you're an advocate for it, because, no matter how somebody recovers, as long as they're recovering their way and they're making it work, it's really important. Totally. So you've been abstinent. Your recovery is an abstinence recovery base. There's no mod.
Yeah,
nothing.
Besides the liquid LSD that I like to put in my eyeballs before, getting out of bed, it's totally abstinent. No, yeah. I'm totally abstinence based. Yes.
How does one acquire this liquid LSD you put in your eyeballs when you wake up?
There's this thing called the dark web. No, I've never put liquid LSD in my eyeballs.
Oh, I knew that. I know you. I've listened to you, and I know your humor, and I definitely know you have not. So that's going to segue me to this. Like, you've taken your recovery one step even further. There's a lot of people in recovery that do, and they become a voice in one way, shape, or form. They find whatever niche they have to fill that can be that voice for others. And, you've done that, and you started a podcast, and your podcast is one of I'm telling you, there are people out there that when I say it, they're like, oh yeah, I listen to it. The Dopey Podcast. All right. Which name, first of all, Dopey is just awesome. How long have you been doing Dopey for?
Like 7 years and 2 months or something. Like
so
we started right. We started in October. I got sober in August and we started in October.
Who's the we?
Which was me and Chris, who was a friend I had made in treatment. We went to it was a 28-day program in very, very rural northern Connecticut called Mountainside. And Chris had been there for like 4 months when I had gotten there. And it's supposed to be a 28-day program. and we hit it off. And it wasn't, the show became me and Chris being stupid and being funny. And people assume that when I got to treatment and met him, it was like that. It wasn't like that when I met him. But we were connected as soon as we met, and we had a very similar sense of humor, and we enjoyed entertaining each other. And so that's how we met. And when I got sober, he had, I think, 2 years, and I really leaned on him because he was a horrible drug addict, and I really leaned on him a lot. That those first, I leaned on him for the first couple of years, but those first couple of days and weeks, I was like annoying. I called him every day just to ask him like how this was going to work, and mostly I would complain about how I lost my family, and I would drive him crazy. But I had made this web series. I work at a very famous deli called Katz's, and I made a web series working at Katz's called The Last Jewish Waiter. And it was about a waiter who hates waiting tables, and he wants to have a talk show. So he makes the talk show while he waits tables. And I got a lot of press for that web series. And Chris was like really taken by that. And he was like, oh, I want to do something and like make it where we get notoriety and it's fun. And he was the really, really great writer. And he would write stories and submit them to like Vanity Fair and Salon and all these places. So you could look him up. His last name was O'Connor. So he has stories out there. He was like, what could we do? And I had another friend who years before was like, we should do a podcast about drug stories. And I was high when he said that. And I was like, okay. I was like, what's a podcast, you know? And when we started, though, I still didn't even know what a podcast was. I just remembered that my friend Brad had said, you should do a podcast about drug stories, or we should do a podcast about drug stories. So I said that to Chris. Chris was like, what's a podcast? I was like, I don't know. And he started researching how you make a podcast. And then he was like, okay, I know what we have to do, but how do we make the show? And I said, just, he lived in Great Barrington, Massachusetts, and I lived on the Lower East Side of Manhattan. And I said, just drive down and we'll make the show. And he's like, should I buy gear? I was like, no. I was like, don't get anything. Just come down and we'll make the show, because I just had this feeling that the way I was, and the way as well as I had known Chris at that point, if we had bought anything, we would have given up. We would. It's like, you know what I mean? Like when you buy like skis and you're going to become a skier, you buy an exercise bike and you never touch it. I was like, if we buy gear, we're never going to touch it. And so we opened up the MacBook Pro. We got on GarageBand because I'm an amateur musician, and I'd recorded a bunch of stuff on GarageBand, and I was like, all we have to do is hit record, and we can talk into the computer, and we can make the whole show like that. And we did it. We did the first 50 episodes like that.
First 50 episodes. You and Chris did, how many episodes did you and Chris do altogether? The two of you?
142.
142 episodes. That's a lot. That's a lot. That's a lot of time together. That's a lot of time to be together. So you guys got to really play off each other a lot. I listened to it. Some of the best parts of the podcast were the stories that people would write into you about or talk to you about. And, you know, no matter how ridiculous or funny or like sometimes a little gross they may have been, there was something that I could relate to each and every time. So you guys really set that precedent. Did you ever think at the time when you and he were doing it that it was going to become this big podcast that it's become?
You know, it's very like addicty kind of thinking. Like on one hand, we thought it would be nothing. And on the other hand, we thought it was going to be bigger than Joe Rogan. You know what I mean? Like we probably thought both things at the same time. And, you know, for a recovery podcast, it's pretty big, but for a real podcast, it isn't. It isn't. It's like, I appreciate you. I mean, like I kill myself on this show. Like I'm so hooked into it. I'm so about it. I should just say it's like you know, like a fish in a big pond, a small fish, big pond kind of thing. I feel like we're a giant bug. Like that's the Dopey status, is we're like a giant bug in the world of animals.
Yeah, but you know, it's also because, you know, you're looking at, once again, a specific, you know, demographic that you're targeting through the podcast. You know, people think that if you're not in recovery, why would you listen to a recovery podcast? And I think it's so much more than that, because you have some of the biggest names out there in recovery on your podcast, and you humanize them. You show that human side to them and who they are as people, not as names. And I think, you know, people tend to forget that just because it doesn't specifically correlate to them because they're not in recovery, that they can't relate? Yes, they can. You know, these are people, these are stories, and you get to tell those stories. So you did this with him for all those episodes. You mind if I ask, tell me a little bit about Chris?
Chris was he was young. He was 10 years younger than me. He died, right? At the end of episode 142, he died. He was very smart. He grew up in Boston. His parents had money. He had finished up his BA online while living in a sober house. He had been to treatment, I think, 15 or 16 times. He went to jail twice. He probably did 2 years in jail over the course of his life. He had suffered a severe brain injury when he was in high school, skiing down a mountain drunk and smashing his head, I think, into a snowmaking machine. He went to some brain injury clinics. He was a colorful character, very smart, young, handsome, wealthy, had the world at his fingertips. When he died, he was getting a PhD in psychology from William James College in Massachusetts.
Wow. And it was the end of the 142nd episode that, you know, he passed away, and this was an overdose. Is this a relapse? May I ask?
He had been working in a sober house, and he had been dating this medical student named Annie, and she just had a baby. And the two of them had gone down to Anguilla. His parents had a beautiful place in Anguilla, and they went to Anguilla. And I mean, the story is, he wanted to impress Annie and show her how high he could kick. And he high kicked a punching bag and tore a tendon in the back of his leg, which made him need pain meds. And that was the beginning of the end. Then he didn't tell the doctor he was a drug addict. He got some kind of pain medicine and started a really, really insane relapse that included crack and fentanyl and heroin and whatever, cigarettes, alcohol. He went to town, you know, and then he died a few days after we had finished the 142nd episode.
So near the end of this, he was using, and you knew that he was using
I
it?
didn't know.
You didn't know he had relapsed at all? And, you know,
no, that's like a weird thing within Dopey, is that nobody wrote me after episode 139 or 140 or 141, oh, Chris sounds off. Nobody wrote me that. But after episode 143, it seems everyone knew it the whole time. It would have been great if they had mentioned it to me, but I didn't notice. And he was off, but he had a million excuses, and I believed them. And, you know, I don't feel guilty about believing them, but it's a frustrating story. Like, his sister runs a sober coaching business, and he was a client for them, and he was a coach for them, and they were still drug testing him, and they had drug tested him the night before he died. So the timing was very tragic. So they didn't find out that he was positive until after he was dead.
Wow. And this isn't, I wish I could say this was a unique story in, you know, the recovery world, you know, but it's a story we hear so often, you know,
it's only a unique story because we had this podcast, you know, that's why it was a unique story, because we had this podcast about telling funny drug stories and and then he turns up dead. You know, that's what adds the weight to the story.
The irony, I would say, or how people, the dramatic irony maybe of it.
Right.
You know, and how many years ago was this?
He died in 2018. So it's the 5-year anniversary of his death.
And in these last 5 years, you kept Dopey going, and you kept it going strong. And you keep his memory going strong each year. What do you do each year that you do to keep Chris's memory going strong?
Well, we do lots of stuff.
In August. In August, what happens in August?
We do Christmas in August, you know, but with MISS Christmas because we miss Chris,
Right.
and we because I'm like not, I have a lot of really good marketing instincts, but because I'm not a good marketer, we call it Dopey Day, also known as Christmas in August. So because we weren't sure if we should commemorate the day he died or the day he was born, so we decided to commemorate the day he was born. So I think one year we commemorated it on the day he died, and every year we do shows on both of those days about Chris in some way, shape, or form. On his birthday, everybody in the audience or around the Dopey scene puts a Dopey logo over their eyes in commemoration. And the idea being, like, we were anonymous on the show forever. We only stopped being anonymous because I went on Mark Maron's podcast and he used my name. And after he used my name, it was like, you know, it's like a joke to be anonymous. So everybody puts the Dopey logo over their eyes, and it's kind of saying you don't know who's an addict anyway, you know. And we've had a lot of like fun with that, and a lot of solidarity. And you guys painted a mural for us, and we had murals up in New Orleans and in Fresno, California, and Los Angeles and Manhattan, and it was like it's a cool thing. Like our audience is they're very tied to the show in a really real way. And it's cool. Like, I love that.
And where does Toodles come from?
Toodles comes from that Chris was actually a very good marketer, even though he didn't realize it. He had a lot of really good instincts for stuff like that. And I think when he was a kid, he would say Toodles, and people would call him Okie Doodles. Like, that was his nickname as a kid, and he would say he was like, he didn't say this to me. Just at the end of one show, he said Toodles, and then he decided he was going to say Toodles at the end of every show. And I was like, dude, you don't have to say Toodles. You know? And he would say it every show, and I would often say, you don't have to say Toodles. And then after he died, I just said fucking Toodles for Chris, and we say it every week. You know, like, I haven't had a week I haven't had to say fucking Toodles now.
It's like a catchphrase. It's just like the old Rowan and Martin laughing, you know, say goodnight, Dick, goodnight, Dick. You know, one of those, and it's a catchphrase, and it catches on, and people remember, and they associate it. So your podcast goes strong. You have some really great guests. You really bring a lot of light to it. Your page actually brings me some of the most enjoyment I get when I wake up or at 2 a.m. and I read the memes that you post from the day before, because you actually have a way of bringing light and making light of the fact of recovery, being like, it's okay that we're addicts. It's okay that people use drugs, and, you know, it's okay to share those jokes. And I love that about you. And I love that about the whole podcast. So what, or you don't have to say who it is, but what memorable episodes you have about the podcast, and what made it memorable?
I mean, so many. Like, we just finished I'm working on, I think, the 404th episode today. As soon as we're done, I'm finishing up the 404th episode. But you know, it's like, I always wanted to do something like this, so I take great joy in doing it. I wouldn't be making 404 episodes of something if I didn't really enjoy it. The episodes that pop into my head first, I mean, the episode that I always describe to people when they ask me what my favorite episode was, it was this episode where it was me and Chris at my old apartment on the Lower East Side, and this guy, Ryan, who had designed the Dopey logo, and we're just like talking about whatever. And my phone rings, and it's my friend Todd. And my friend Todd was somebody who I did a ton of drugs with, and I had a ton of stories with him. And I think a lot of Dopey, it came from a lot of places, but one of the most, I don't know, robust places that the inspiration came from was my friendship with Todd. And he calls me, and I don't tell him I'm recording. And I start talking to him, and he immediately tells me he had just gotten arrested, and like, he just goes into like this crazy Dopey story, and he doesn't even know he's on Dopey. And then Todd wound up dying. You know, Todd died before Chris did. 6 weeks before Chris did, Todd died. So like that episode, the fact that Todd was part of Dopey just naturally, like he was just in it and he didn't even know he was in it, that was my all-time favorite memory, especially since he's gone. Then like me and Chris going to Artie Lang's house in New Jersey. He was the host of the Howard Stern show.
Oh yeah.
That was very memorable. Interviewing Mark Maron in this hotel across the street from from Katz's. That was pretty nuts. Michael Imperioli from The Sopranos, who played Christopher.
Oh yeah, I like him. Very cool. Yeah.
He came to my dad's house and we reenacted a scene from The Sopranos. That was one of my all-time favorites.
That's awesome. Oh, you had the guy on from Machete.
Yeah, Danny Trejo.
Danny Trejo and his son. They're both in recovery, correct?
Yeah, his son. They were both great.
Powerful stories.
I mean, like, that's one of my regrets. I forgot about this regret. But he has a book, Danny Trejo, called Trejo. And in the book, he tells a story about that he's in prison, right? And when he was in prison, what's his face? Manson. What's his first name?
Charles Manson?
Charles Manson was in prison. And Charles Manson would hypnotize the inmates into thinking they were high. And that's what he would, like, if you were a heroin addict, you'd pay Charles Manson to make you feel like you're on heroin. And I forgot to ask him about that.
That's crazy. I'll have to read that. It was in his book, you said? That's crazy.
Great. Yeah, his book is great.
That's interesting.
The other thing, though, about the Danny Trejo interview is, like, I used some shitty software, and the software cut out like 10 times during the interview. It was one of the most like horrible experiences ever, but it turned into a decent show.
Nice. And that's what it is. Like I said, you take people who, there's a face out there, people know the face, and you break it down and you humanize them for people to see that it's just like you and me. Because I think people tend to forget that, people who use drugs are somebody, it's somebody's brother, mother, sister, father, those of us in addiction, we get it, we know it, but people who aren't, sometimes they have the blinders and they don't see that. So you bring these, like I said, these names that people see as names, and you peel the layers back, and it's pretty cool to see that. Not many people get that opportunity. So, kudos to you for that. And that's what I admire. And that's why I respect you, because you're telling the stories that need to be told. And that's phenomenal. How long have you been at Katz's Deli? First of all, Katz's Deli, that's an awesome deli. And how long have you been there?
I've been there, I want to say 16 years.
So you were there through your addiction?
Yeah.
So they've known the addict side of Dave, and they've known the clean and sober. So this is family.
I got there like summer of 2008. Like I was strung out on methadone in Los Angeles, and I found out my mother had leukemia, and I was living in California, and she thought she was going to die soon. And I was like, okay. And I got off methadone and I moved back to New York, and I had worked at Katz's when I was a kid. So I was like, could I come work? And it was like the worst. I remember, like, cause working in a deli is it can be fun, but it's not an easy job. And I remember I got back in there one night, and I'm working on the back counter, like selling like cold cuts and Snapples, and like restocking the Snapples in the fridge. And I'm like, man, and I hadn't worked in years. Like I had been taken care of by my girlfriend for years. And I was just like, man, this sucks, And it was busy. And I said to the guy, it was a Jamaican guy I was working with, I was like, how long does it stay this busy? And he's like, boy, this is slow. Like, you're not going to believe what Christmas is like. And I was like, dude, I'm not going to be here in Christmas. And then 16 years later, I'm still fucking at Cats. It's crazy. I wound up becoming a manager, relapsing on heroin. I was a waiter and a manager. I waited tables there for 10 years, and I was high. And I would serve food and like eat it off the customers' plates, and I would like nod off on the counter. I was a disaster, I was a disaster, and they fired me. And I begged them not to fire me, and I told them I would go to rehab, And they said, okay, but you're not managing the store again. And I said, okay. And I went that's when I met Chris. It's 2011. I went to Mountainside, and I came back and I waited tables from 2000. I waited tables from probably 2009 to 2019 or 2020. And then I got this opportunity to do events for them, and I do that now, and it's been going pretty good.
That's awesome. So, and it's a humbling thing too, knowing that, because I myself also worked behind a bar at a family run bar tavern here in the Philadelphia area. And I too would be nodding off behind the bar, and I too would be going off like, oh, I'm going to have some sweet potatoes. They're not going to miss 4 off their plate as it's going out the thing. Right. And, the owner would come up to me and be like, you're not behind the bar effing up my business, are you again? And, it's nice to know that there's people who know you for the worst of you and also the best of you and accept you regardless. So that's an awesome thing. That's a family.
Well, first of all, I want to say thank you, because you're the first person I've ever told that story to, and they're like, "Oh yeah, I used to do that too." So thank you for that.
You're welcome.
Like, you know what I mean? It's like everyone's usually aghast when I tell them.
No. Hey, we could have a different show, and I could tell you all those stories. We're cool, but you're welcome. Don't ever feel alone.
Secondly, though, I have to say that that job probably saved my life. Like that job, like learning how to make money, learning how to come in every day, waiting tables 60 hours a week, and also being shamed. Like I was shamed in that place bad. And then you just kind of have to keep going. And I mean, I called the show that I made there The Last Jewish Waiter, because Katz's is 99.8% Dominican. And I was one Jewish person. Maybe there's 3 Jewish people in that place and 145 Dominicans or something. And I'm an honorary Dominican, and I love Dominicans, but to be because I was also management, so to be shamed and to lose that spot, and a lot of them made fun of me for years. For years, when I picked up food to bring to a table, they would call me a crackhead, and it was all in quote unquote good fun. But if I hadn't stayed sober, man, you use it as drive and you use it as fuel, and then after you've endured it for X amount of time, you get some respect because you're there. I was intent on not fucking it up, and then Dopey came out and I was still doing it. And now people go in there all the time looking for me, and they all think I'm famous, the guys at Katz's. And they're really proud of me. When you talk about a family, it really is a family. And all those Dominican guys can't believe that this happened, and that I went from running that store to being fired to waiting tables to having the podcast. It's really cool.
And, don't sell yourself short, my friend. People come looking for you because you are famous. People see you and they recognize you and they connect to you because you're real. So people come in there for that reason. And that's an honor. That's actual humbling thing too. Yeah.
The best part is just to shove it in my friends' faces at work.
Yeah.
Dominicans now, they know what's up.
Autograph? You want an autograph? Here you go. Do people stop you on the street and say, hey, are you the guy from Dopey? Or hey, you're Dave?
Never happened.
No?
Only in Katz's. Never.
No way.
Not even one time. This is one of the coolest things that ever happened, really. I was at a 12-step meeting, one that I didn't go to very often. And every time I would go to a 12-step meeting, I would think everyone would know me, like I was fucking Keith Richards or something. No one ever knew me, ever. And then one time I go to this meeting, literally, I'm 7 years sober. I've been to hundreds of meetings. One time this happened. It was a meeting that I didn't go to very often. And I share at the meeting, and I'm leaving, right? And this young woman is the secretary of the meeting, and she goes, hey. And I'm like, hey. And she's like, look at this. And she points to her leg, and she has a Dopey tattoo. She has the Dopey logo tattooed on her leg. And I was like, holy cow. That was the craziest thing.
That's awesome. That right there is something to feel good about, because that means that you are making a difference and an impact on people. For somebody
to the other side of that story is that we paid for her to get that tattoo. And it was just random that I met her there. But since that tattoo, there have been there have been, I think, 25 Dopey tattoos. But like, I have to be 100% that we paid her I never met her,
but that's cool.
Tattoo artist. Yeah, it's cool. It's cool.
So you did DopeyCon. You had your first DopeyCon, correct?
It was our third
DopeyCon. Okay. See, I'm behind there. What is DopeyCon? Tell me that.
DopeyCon is a live podcast / fan convention celebration of dopey recovery, addiction, dumb shit, all that stuff. And first year we did it in, I want to say 2019 at Mountainside, where me and Chris had met.
Okay.
At their New York City office, and then in 2020 during COVID, we did it virtually. And then we didn't do it in 2021 because I didn't want to do it virtually again. And then we did our second live one in October.
Yes.
It was amazing. You should have come. You got to come.
I know. I'm still kicking myself. That was the day I just couldn't finagle getting off to get up there on that Saturday. And I was really excited because, it's any type of, conference or event like that to connect with others and hear the stories of others and just learn. And, the awareness that's being spread is amazing. So I'd love to, to get up there this coming year. We can talk more about that. You said, so, your partner's name, did you say what? Linda? What's her name? Linda? So you wrote her these letters, and here you are now 7.5 years later, and you two are still together on child number 2. Did you say? Yeah,
we have now our first is 13 and our second is 4. Wow. And we have a house in Long Island, and it's not always perfect, but it's pretty amazing.
Thank you for being honest about that, because nothing is perfect. And, I always tell people, because I actually have, I do officiate weddings. I got that ordained online ministry. And I always tell people in that, that, relationships aren't leisure, they're work. And it's not a 50-50, it's 100-100. If you're not giving 100% on each end, you're not making it work. And, it's important. And so you have what, 2 girls? Both girls? So you're in a house, it's you and the 3 women. How's that?
A female a female dog. All females. I think the guinea pigs might be males, but that doesn't really make a difference.
Can't really have, bromances with the guinea pig. So
I try.
What keeps you going every day? What's that one thing that if you could really pull out of your day that keeps you going, that says, I'm not going to pick up today. I'm not going to use, I'm going to make it through this day, no matter how depressed I am, no matter how shitty this day is. What is that one thing that you turn to or you look at, Dave?
I mean, there's so many things. I remember when first year, I was sitting in a meeting and I was thinking about getting high and how much I love to get high. I love to do drugs. And I'm sitting there thinking about it. And this thing hit me, and it was very obvious, but it was just this thing that hit me with that I was never going to get as high as I had been. And if that was the case, what am I doing? And I've never experienced long-term recovery ever. That year, I had never had a year. I never had 2 years. I never did step work. I never, and they're talking about promises. I never had any promises. I never had anything. So I was like, if I spent 41 years in a long time in active addiction, 15 years of adolescence and childhood, and then 26 years of using, or I don't know, my math is bad. What could another 40 years of sobriety give me? What can it be like? And I don't think about using because my life is great. I mean, it's like if I was using, I would lose everything in a minute. And if I didn't lose it in a minute, it would be this forever. It'd be this downward, horrible trajectory. But simple things that I love, I get up first. If I don't go to Manhattan, I get my kids breakfast together. And I mean, sometimes it's not great. Sometimes my older daughter has attitude or whatever, but usually it's great. It's just this, I put on nice music and I make them eggs and I feel this real sense of love, and it's great. You know what I mean? I love I love putting the show together. Like, I don't love every episode, and and most episodes require a lot of work. But when I'm almost done with it, and I'm putting because the shows are really long, and I usually put a lot of pieces together to make them. I really enjoy that. Like, I enjoy putting music in it, and I enjoy downloading it and putting it up and writing about it and getting art for it. Like, I really enjoy all those things. And the truth is, I really like life. Like, I'm somebody that I enjoy so many things in my life. Like, I love the dog. I love walking. I like, it's weird because I'm so like cynical and whatever, but I really enjoy life I don't always enjoy it, but for the most part, I enjoy it. And I know I used because I had crazy anxiety and fear. So I used to medicate that stuff. And ultimately, using brings you more anxiety and fear. So that's how I don't use, basically.
I like it. I love that you said that too. And I usually don't want to bring it in like, why do you use, or what was the reason, or what was that trauma you experienced? Because it's sometimes so personal or so different, or sometimes not even identifiable, to people, or you think it's one thing and you just work through it. But, people don't realize that like, people use, but they use then to cover up the using. And it becomes this downward spiral of using that you get more and more anxious and fear because of the using, that you keep trying to cover it up by using some more. And it just doesn't work. You're just, it's really like shooting yourself in the foot. It really is. So, you've had some great guests. If there's one guest out there that you would petition and have on your show, who would it be?
Oh, God. There's so many, the person I've been talking about lately. There's the first two that come to mind is if I can have anybody. Is it like fantasy time or
sure?
Like
Either
fantasy,
or.
The number one fantasy interview that I think I would want to do is Bob Dylan.
Oh,
I don't know why. Like, I can't. It's because he's such a weirdo, and I want to sit down with him and see if I could get him to be normal and talk straight. Like, if you see an interview with Dylan, he's like, he doesn't talk straight, and I would want. And I'm a huge fan of Bob Dylan's, but I would want to see if I can't get a real conversation out of him. He would probably be a great disappointment to me. You know what I mean? Because I don't think I could get him to talk straight.
Oh my gosh. I wish we had more time to just continue to ramble and talk on, because you're an interesting dude. And I've been, a long time coming, waiting to connect with you with this. And, like I said, I've been a fanboy for quite some time, and I'm really stoked that we were able to connect. And, if you didn't have the podcast going on, what do you think you would be doing that would be your focus or your sole, enjoyment? Is there anything you ever think about that?
No, I never think about that.
No?
I'm so invested in this thing.
That's it. I love it. That's what I wanted to know.
Music. Yeah.
What kind of music?
I just used to be in bands and stuff, but I'm not that good. You know what I mean? I'm so much better at making a podcast than I would be in a band.
And your podcast is good. It really is. And this is what I want to do. I want to actually bring on a friend of mine who's been sitting here with me this time. And she's a very good friend of mine. She's also, somebody who's no stranger to, media out there. And I'm going to have her do a little, trivia with us here, or a little fun game of, about drugs, because, both of us know a lot about drugs. I mean, and, we know how to use them, buy them, whatever else came along with them. So, but I want to bring on right now my friend, Natalie Egenolf. Hi, Natalie.
Well, yeah, first of all, thanks for letting me pop onto your episode. And I need the Bob Dylan episode of the Dopey Podcast to happen, because the man speaks in lyrics. I'm pretty musically inclined myself. So the man speaks in lyrics. So I would love to hear him just try and give a straight answer, because it would never happen. He would be like, "What did you do last night?" And he'd be like, "Well, I might have gone up to the stairs and, but then I flew away." And you're like, "Did you just go to the bathroom, Bob?" And you're like, "Okay, maybe he did." So yeah, no, I totally need need to hear that. But this was great, Dave. Thanks for letting me hear and listen to the story. And I mean, I can't wait to listen to more episodes. I checked out some of the episodes, when you told me I was joining this pod. So this was so fun to listen in on. This was cool.
And for you,
Natalie, you know what I want to, do?
Yeah.
Is I want to write an absurdist play about a family, right?
Yeah.
And Bob Dylan is the uncle in the family, and it's like tour bus breaks down, or it's COVID or something.
Yeah.
And he's stranded at this family's house, and he has to become part of this family. Like, do normal stuff, and he connects with the kid in the house, and they watch Family Feud and eat cereal and stuff. And Bob Dylan has to be normal. You know what I mean? And it's like uncle. It's like a weird Waiting for Godot kind of thing. And Bob Dylan realizes that he doesn't want to go back on tour because he's finally himself.
Right.
That's
He's
the lesson from the play.
And then he just drops as Bob Dylan lyrical genius, and he's like, you know what? There are 3 strikes there, Steve Harvey. You know what? There are 3 strikes, and here is one blanket answer for that question.
I think Dave already has started
that
this.
From him.
I think Dave already started writing this.
Maybe he starts writing the songs for his nephew's band.
Yes.
He goes, or he writes rap lyrics for his godson's hip hop actors. I don't know.
I think you're on to something here.
I actually
you're on to something here.
The next show, I want you both. Here's an assignment for you. I want you both to come up with a rap song and sing it like Bob Dylan would.
Oh, I can do that. I can do it. The only tattoo I ever considered in my life was Bob Dylan lyrics.
Which one?
Okay, which one?
Then take me disappearing through the smoke rings of my mind. Fair past the
down the foggy ruins of time, out past the frozen
beach of twisted sorrow. Yes, to dance. Yeah.
Dude, you go.
Going, Natalie.
Yeah,
yes,
go.
To
Yeah,
dance
go.
Beneath the. I know. I'm feeling pressured.
Yes, to dance
with one-eyed sky with one eye, one arm waving free. Right?
Silhouetted by the sea, circled by the circus hands, with all memory and fate, driven deep beneath the waves of crazy sorrow.
Yes, let me forget about today until tomorrow.
That's awesome.
Yep.
That's awesome.
That's the only tattoo I ever considered.
That's a huge tattoo. Where would it go? Your back?
Well, that's the whole thing. And I'm so indecisive that it would have never happened. That's why I don't have a tattoo in general, because it would have taken me a year. But that's as close as I got. It was Bob Dylan lyrics.
I love it, though.
Yeah.
That's excellent.
Yeah,
I
so
love the two of you just spewed that together,
Yes. So I do have this game here. Now, I found this. It's a narcotics quiz. How's this?
I don't know, Dave, you know a lot about narcotics?
PBS, so I feel like that should be safe, right?
What was it?
It's from PBS.
Well, you would hope. I mean, I don't. It doesn't matter. Say if
I'll
you
feel
heard
bad if I'm not good at this.
Well, you know what? If not, it just means that we were probably really good at using them and didn't pay attention to anything else.
Well, I feel like this is general narcotics knowledge that is probably good for the public to know.
Let's go.
Right? And it's like party conversation, if you will. If you're ever at a party talking about narcotics.
Small talk.
Okay, so here's the first question. What was the name of one of Coca-Cola's biggest competitors at the turn of the 20th century? Now, these are multiple choice.
Ooh.
A, Yummy Cola, B, Dope Cola, C, Spirited Cola, or D, High Cola?
Ooh.
I'm going to say Dope Cola.
Okay.
Ooh, I was going to say High Cola.
Okay, wait. Oh, wait, it doesn't give me the answers until the end.
Natalie. Okay.
Oh, go ahead.
Okay.
Natalie.
All right, I'm sorry.
Don't be
well,
sorry.
let's just we'll
get the answer at the end. We got it. Yeah.
Okay, so is that the unanimous? This is a
Well, he said dope, and
No,
I
we'll
say high.
high. I'm with you, Britt.
You want to do high? We'll
Okay,
do
all
high.
right, so we're gonna go with D, and then we'll grade ourselves at the end.
Okay.
Okay. Alrighty. Okay. Question number 2. What country did LSD originate from? A, Canada.
Switzerland.
Okay. All right. That was C. So he seems very adamant about that one.
I'm going to go with Dave's answer on that one. Dave knows because of the eyeballs in the morning. No, so no, I'm joking.
What is one of the key ingredients for turning cocaine into crack? Baking soda, heroin, alcohol, or glue?
Oh, no. Hey.
Back.
Hey, buddy.
Baking soda.
I was waiting for that.
soda.
Yeah.
Okay.
Baking soda. Can you imagine that? Oh, yeah, just throw a little, heroin in with that coke. That's a speedball. So anyway, go ahead.
That's the extra credit question, Britt.
Oh, damn it. I'm always ahead of myself. Go ahead.
Okay. Question number 4. The French Connection in the 1960s involved smuggling what drug? Marijuana, heroin, peyote, and ecstasy. I don't know what peyote is.
You know what peyote?
No.
But it's heroin. It's definitely heroin.
So the answer is heroin.
Peyote, you should really watch. What's the movie, Dave?
The Doors.
Yes, The Doors.
Oh.
They do it in the desert, the Lizard King, all that.
Okay. I'll check it out.
Check it out.
All right.
Yeah.
Question number 5. What pharmaceutical firm introduced heroin in tablet forms to the United States? Eli Lilly, Bayer, Pfizer, or Procter & Gamble?
Pfizer. A bear?
Bayer?
Yes.
Ooh, you're good. See, is that the guy who did the whole spoon thing, the art? Do you know that guy?
No, I don't know.
I'll send that. I'll send that to you. It's
All
a
right.
different show.
Question number 6. Which U.S. president submitted to a drug test? A. Bill Clinton, B. Ronald Reagan, C. Jimmy Carter, or D. Gerald Ford?
I don't know.
I would probably say Reagan.
Okay. Yeah. I was going to say A because Bill seemed like a wild guy.
Bill?
but-
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
He
but
submitted to a
we'll
lot
go
more
with-
than that.
Yeah, he did. But we'll go with Reagan for
Yeah, and
War on
Bill
drugs.
submitted to a lot more than that, so we're good.
Okay. Question number 7. Which rock star wanted to be a federal agent at large in the Bureau of Narcotics and Dangerous Drugs?
Elvis.
Oh, that was A. B was Bruce Springsteen, Jimi Hendrix, or Mick Jagger. I bet. Yeah, Elvis seems like the.
That was pretty good.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
I don't
and
even
then
need to be in this.
Question number 8. Which city first passed the anti-drug law in the U.S.? New York, Philly, New Orleans, or San Fran?
I'm going to say New York.
I was thinking New York.
New York.
Okay. Now we can check our answers.
There we go. I think we're pretty much on it.
Why is it not working?
I don't know.
Really.
Look, it's not working.
Oh my gosh. I got to tell you, I think all the answers.
We got 100.
We got
Look,
100?
it just worked. We got 100. Everything was right.
Everything was right.
Everything was right.
Thank you for carrying us there, Dave,
promise
because I
we
didn't
were
know
right.
crap. I didn't know Bayer. I would have said Pfizer. I blame them for everything, So it's all good. But Dave, this has been, and Natalie, thank you for that. That was awesome.
I'm happy to drop it and give any trivia. Yes.
We could do trivia with Natalie. We could bring you on each one and do a trivia pertaining to that.
I'm here for it.
You got it. We could
do
do
it.
that for sure. Thank you for that.
Yes.
Did you learn
Narcotics and
anything?
Beyond.
Did you learn anything?
I learned a lot.
Yeah?
Yeah. Who knew?
But you know what, Dave? I think that could segue you into a new branding product for Dope Cola.
Yeah, I want some dope cola right now. I'm really thirsty. I could go for a little dope cola right now.
Oh my gosh. And just, use a straw to do it. So you're good. Dave, and Natalie, it's really, I don't know. Sometimes it's really, humbling, but it's also very healing for me to be able to sit with people who I share common bonds and threads and, just experiences with. And, this has been a really great experience for me today to be able to sit here with Dave and talk to you about, your life and how there's so much more to it. I could have peeled so many more layers back. Just don't have that much time. But Dave, you're doing some great stuff. You're really, finding, footing in the recovery community and beyond and giving a good name and making light of it. And that cynical part of it, don't ever lose it, because that's what I like about you, that cynicism, that, that right there shows some real genuine to it. And, you have a great attitude, and, your story is one that others will be able to ride off of for a long time, because you really are showing people what it's like to recover and be a pillar in the community. So thank you for that a lot.
Well, thanks, Britt. I mean, I had a lot of fun, and I appreciate you being so welcoming and appreciative of my work. So thank you, Britt.
Hey, no worries. You kidding? I'm appreciative that you took time for this. I was like, yes, finally. So, and Natalie, thanks for joining us with that.
Oh, this was fun.
Next time, I hope the answers, you have
Bob
those.
Dylan tat.
You have the Bob Dylan tat. You guys can do your Bob Dylan, wrap
Versus.
off.
Yeah.
All right, cool. I'm down. Set it up. I'm there. I'm down.
And so, Dave, for everybody that's going to be listening, tuning in, and watching us here, where can they find you on social media and on your podcast?
Everything is just under Dopey Podcast. If you go on Instagram, it's Dopey Podcast, Twitter, Facebook, the show. Just Google Dopey Podcast. It'll all come up. And our website is dopeypodcast.com. So it's all there.
Great branding. Great branding.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. Dave, Natalie, thank you so much.
Oh, yeah,
Dave,
thanks for having me.
thank you so much. I hope we could do this again sometime soon. I'm going to let you go, though, so you can enjoy your day and get on with all the great things that you got to do. But Dave, keep doing what you're doing. Keep focused on what you're doing. Keep being a voice for those who can't be a voice for themselves. Thank you for carrying out, your mission, and also holding, Chris dear to your heart and to everybody else's hearts, because you guys made a serious impact on a lot of people in the community. So that's it.
I appreciate that. Yeah. Thank you very much. I really appreciate that.
No worries. And you're welcome back at any time. So I look forward to it.
Today I'm back. I'm with it.
You got it. And for everybody else out there, thank you so much for tuning in today. Remember, whatever it is you stand for, be a voice. This is Britt James on USALA Media. Take care and be well.